Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more predator patterning, and today we've definitely got a very interesting combination, and I think it's going to kind of go one of two ways. Either it's going to work out and give us a very impressive pattern, or it's going to absolutely be a terrible combination. I don't think we're going to be somewhere in the middle there. I think it's going to be on one of the two extremes. So we're going to test it and see what happens. So for the setup I've brought out here today, I got out my Remington 870 special purpose with a 24-inch barrel, and I threw in this choke, which is the Carlson's Coyote choke. We tested this last week with some very interesting results, to say the least. Now, right off the bat, there is no constriction claims anywhere on Carlson's website or the packaging or the choke or anything. So when I measured this Coyote choke out, it came out to be right at a 665 constriction. So definitely a little bit on the tighter side for what I would have thought. But other than that, there's really nothing special about it. It does have a few small porting holes on the side of it, but there's no straight rifling or anything else fancy going on with it. So it's essentially just a straight up extended 665 choke that they call a Coyote choke. But they claim to see their best patterns at up to 70 yards with 4-buck, T-shot, and BB shot. So last week we tested it with 4-buck with some kind of mediocre results because I think it was probably a little bit over constricted more than anything else. But today's load might work out with this, or it might not. I really don't know how it's going to perform, but we're going to find out. But as for that shell we brought out here today, I got out some of these, the Hornady Heavy Magnum Coyote shells. These ones are their 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1.5 ounce payload of nickel-plated lead BB shot, moving about 1,300 feet per second. And these do have the Hornady Versatite wad, which is essentially a flight control wad. They are pretty much identical. Now on the package here, they do claim that these are best with an improved cylinder or a modified choke. Now we did do a full choke test with these a while back, and they did fantastic through most of the range of chokes, all the way up into a full choke. So I think this combination is going to go one of two ways. With that Versatite wad, it's either going to work out very nicely with this 665 Coyote choke, or it's going to completely ruin our pattern because it's over constricted and does some weird things. I really don't know what to expect because I think it's going to be either on one side or the other. But as for today's test, we're running it the same way we always do these type of tests. I've got the big sheet of paper set up at 40 yards. I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity, and I've got some templates that we can lay up over our results as well. So let's get you guys to view this target and take the shot and see if this combination of Carlson's 665 Coyote choke and these Hornady Heavy Magnum Coyote BB shells is actually going to work out or not. Alright, so that shell gave us 1231 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1300, which we typically do see right around that 1300 mark. However, we do have a 24-inch barrel on that 870, so I'm sure it's a little bit shorter than what they factory tested these out of to get that claim. So this velocity definitely makes sense for our setup. So definitely nothing too strange to see up here for velocity, but what kind of a pattern did it actually give us at 40? And did that Coyote choke actually work with this Hornady Versatite wad? Let's go check it out and see what kind of results we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard target, and this is what we got. The white dot was my point of aim. The paper is 36 inches wide by about 42 to 44 inches tall. And I did count all the pellets as I was circling them here on the paper, and we had a total of 66 of them that hit this paper at 40 yards. And honestly, that pattern right there isn't bad whatsoever. At 40 yards, that's going to absolutely cover a coyote in pellets without a doubt. So I would say this combination actually worked out surprisingly well, considering that we had the Versatite wad through that 665 Coyote choke. That could have really gone sideways for us and thrown an absolutely terrible pattern, but it really didn't. I mean, yeah, we were just a touch off to the right on the paper here, but that is a beautifully even spread of pellets all the way until you get to the outside edges, which we do see a couple of flyers, like up there at the top and a few of them down around along the bottom and stuff. But a couple of flyers with that kind of a main core area spread, I'll take that all day long. That's not bad whatsoever. And I think that is probably right up there with some of the best patterns that we've gotten out of these shells. I think we've had patterns that have less flyers around the edges, but really the main central portion of our pattern, that's about as good as what we've seen from what I can remember out of these shells. So let's throw a couple templates up and we'll get a little bit better reference as to how it actually performed in some more real life type of scenarios. All right, so here's our 10-inch circle, and if we put it with the main core area of our pattern, we would have had somewhere in the ballpark of 21 pellets within a 10-inch circle at 40 yards. So if that was the vital sized area on your Coyote or something, yeah, it would absolutely be good enough. There's no doubt about that. 21 or 22 pellets worth of BB at over 1,200 feet per second is not going to feel very good for any of them, that's for sure. So yeah, not looking bad at all, but let's throw an animal template up, which will give us a little bit better of an idea on an actual target as to how this pattern looks. All right, so here's our hog template, and although yes, you could use this shell for hog hunting within those closer ranges, it would be good enough. It's going to give us a little bit of a size reference as to how it looks on a Coyote, since Coyote would be just a touch smaller than this hog template. And clearly, you've got enough pellets to absolutely cover him. I don't think he's going to go anywhere on you. I know I definitely wouldn't be scared to coyote hunt or fox hunt or anything like that with that kind of a pattern. And really, it gives us a very nice spread as well. At 40 yards, you're going to be plenty good enough. If they're in a little bit closer range, you're going to have a little bit more leeway to work with. If they're trotting or jogging or maybe even a full-on sprint across at 40 to 50 yards, you've got a pattern that's going to cover all your bases really. So I really like that kind of performance right there. And that pattern is good enough to where you would probably run out of energy with these being a lead BB before you would run out of actual pattern capability in getting the job done. So overall here, I'm definitely not disappointed at all with how that performed. It could have gone way worse for us without a doubt. With that constriction, with that load, with that wad all combined together, that is a more than usable enough pattern right there all day long. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell, and as you can see, it legitimately just looks like a flight control wad because it really essentially is. There isn't any real major differences between the two of them, but it looks really good for going through a 665 choke. Everything performed great. The tail fins opened up perfectly. The little flaps on the side just started to poke out a little bit, which is very much normal. There really isn't even any major bulging or anything right here between the flaps either. Like this wad jammed really hard into the choke and pushed everything back like we see sometimes. So it ultimately looks really good. Definitely nothing I'm concerned about whatsoever. And I really didn't expect it to look quite this good either. But hey, I think it did its job just fine for us today. So definitely nothing too strange to see here, or nothing out of the ordinary anyway. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that performance right there? That's definitely a very solid pattern that I wouldn't be scared to predator hunt with all day long. 40, 50 yards, that's going to absolutely hammer them without a doubt. Now, there are a few flyers and stuff around the edges, which doesn't really surprise me considering that this is a lead BB pellet going through a pretty tight choke with that kind of a wad. So ultimately not too surprising there, but this combination could have absolutely turned out terrible for us. And it ultimately gave us a very nice pattern to work with. I didn't really know what to expect coming into it here. It was either going to work or it wasn't. And I would say that it worked out pretty well for us. That's about as good as what we have seen out of these shells realistically, minus maybe a few of the flyers around the edges. So I'm pretty happy with this combination at the end of the day here. Now we just got to try that choke with some different loads, different shot sizes and stuff, and see what it does and how it continues to perform with those different shells. So I guess leave all your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Hornady Heavy Magnum Coyote BB loads or the Carlson's Coyote choke? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? And is there another shell or choke combo that you might want to see with either these shells or that particular Coyote choke? Let me know all that down below. Overall, I really don't think we have a whole lot to complain about here considering the shell and the setup. I definitely wasn't going to be surprised if it was a terrible pattern, and it's really not. So I don't think we have a whole lot to complain about here at the end of the day. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.